I think I'm a special one.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Welcome back on the Half Turn Podcast, episode 45, right?
Something like that, man.
I forget the total number every time. All that's important is this is World Cup preview episode 2. It's getting real, man. Like today, we're reviewing the World Cup roster, reveal the U.S. roster. We're gonna preview Group B. So if all you really care about is the U.S. and all you know, this is the episode. We're breaking down the roster, who got snubbed, who's on it, how we think they'll be used, Berhalter's decisions, and then going to our opponents a little bit. So,
on the Half Turn country, let's ride.
Let's ride. USMNT country, let's ride.
Let's go.
So, Chad, you're really in the spirit now. What are you wearing?
Oh, dude, I got a USA kit, obviously. Do you know what year this is?
I think that's 14-15. After the 14 World Cup, so like 15-16 maybe.
This jersey screams Jordan Morris's debut.
It screams losing to Chile, playing a 3-5-2 against Chile with Josie Altidore and Breck Shea starting. Jermaine Jones as a center back and a back three. Like if you weren't riding in those times, you can't be riding when like Pool 6 scores a game winner in this World Cup. If you're not riding with the Jermaine Jones center back and the Breck Shea left wing back experiment, it's not the podcast for you.
What do you got on?
So there's no name on the back of yours, right?
Nah, no name. No.
It's just blue. It's like blue and fades to white at the top.
Yeah,
move your camera down a little bit so everyone can see.
It fades to dark like blue too, so it blends in with my like black pants.
It's actually like it's not a bad kit to wear. It's not a bad kit to wear, but it's kind of ugly, like as a standalone kit.
Yeah, I know.
I'm wearing I think I've worn it before. It's a long sleeve white t-shirt, and on it has the old U.S. Soccer logo, and on the side it's number 11 Freddie Adu Nike Soccer shirt. So it was for his match debut, January 27, 2001 versus China. So I'm guessing it's when he debuted for like the U15 national team or something, or maybe like an Olympic qualifying. We were looking it up earlier. We didn't look at the game. But it's just like a cool, like retro, like Freddie Adu, like long sleeve T-shirt. So what do we find funny about Freddie Adu's Wikipedia?
So Freddie Adu played for the USA U20s from 2003 to 2009. A total of 33 appearances.
Dude, probably the most capped U20 player of all time. Like that's just such like a long road. Like he was just like really good at like 14 and 15 and then just like never got better, so he just stayed in like the youth system.
So he must have started playing for the U20s when he was 15.
Yeah, probably
14, 15-ish.
Maybe that's when this game was.
Because I asked Andrew, I was like, you think Freddie Adu, if he really lived up to his potential, would be playing in this World Cup? He's like, no way. And we looked it up. He's still only 33 years old.
Crazy. So you'd be entering his prime. How old's Messi? He's older than that, right?
Like 30, 34, 35.
Ronaldo's like 38.
Yeah.
So he'd be one of the GOATs. He'd still have another World Cup in him. Dude, he realistically could have played in like 06, 10, 14, 18, 22. And like if he gets Ronaldo status in 26. Dude,
06 he would have been like 16 or 17.
Okay. He was on the dude. He could have had like an Abby Wambach type like ceremonial like win the World Cup thing on home soil in 2026. Dude, he could have played in 6 World Cups.
Yeah,
that would have been insane, bro. We're living in a simulation, and there's another simulation out there where Freddie Adu is getting prepped for the World Cup.
Yeah, and you're alongside him.
Yes, we're strike partners. We're strike partners in Brad Friedel's men's national team. His 4-4-2 diamond.
Why Brad Friedel?
I just picked a random guy who would coach.
Yeah. All right.
In Jimmy Conrad's 4-4-2 system. All right, so we dropped the roster on Wednesday. So you want to walk through it?
Do you want to start by just going through the U.S. or you just want to hop into the roster?
Yeah, hop into the roster. We'll start with the goalkeepers and we'll react from there.
Right. I didn't know if you wanted to go through how the U.S. got here. Treat it like how we normally were treating groups, but
Yeah, we'll treat it how we've been doing groups.
all right.
We'll start with the roster.
All right. So for goalies, obviously everyone knows Zach Steffen. Zach Steffen did not make the roster. So it's Ethan Horvath from Luton Town. He's got eight caps with the national team. Got Sean Johnson, obviously the New York City FC goalie. He's got 10 caps with the national team. And then the expected number 1, Matt Turner, Arsenal, 20 caps with the national team. Something around 14 shutouts too.
Wow. I mean, most of those probably came in like the recent Gold Cup or like a Nations League, but still respectable. So what do you think? Is that like obviously we all kind of assumed it would be Steffen and Turner fighting for the number 1 spot and like probably Sean Johnson like just squeaking in as a number 3. And then there's leaks coming out of the roster, and then it's leaked that Zach Steffen didn't make it, and then like it's true. And then I mean, pretty crazy. Like that was Berhalter's guy. It seemed like he was the guy that was like the next Tim Howard, the next U.S. goalkeeper. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, when they were doing the roster reveal, I don't know if you watched the roster reveal. They announced each player one by one. Mm-hmm. So they announced maybe Sean Johnson first, then Horvath. So made everyone go, what? Because obviously you expect Turner and Steffen. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I mean, obviously I think Turner kind of took the number 1 job. Mm-hmm. People are saying it's a Brad Friedel, Casey Keller deal? That's what some people have been comparing it to, where one of those two, who was it?
I don't know, but I heard them talking on Sirius XM-FC about, I think it was going into 2002, right?
Something like that. This is before our soccer knowledge. Yeah, one of those goalies didn't like being put as the second goalie in the rotation. Mm-hmm. And overall, whoever the manager was at the time just didn't bring him along. So maybe it's a situation where if Steffen's the one that's being put on the bench, maybe he's kind of like bringing everyone else down with his attitude. Kind of. Yeah,
it'd be hard for Berhalter to project that forward and just say to say you're not going to be on the roster because I don't think your attitude is good enough, so you're just not coming. Like maybe Zach Steffen told him like if I better be the number 1, and Berhalter was like, if you're going to be like that, like stern about it, I don't trust you to be the backup. I don't know. I trust Matt Turner. I've been on here saying like I think Turner's better than Steffen. I've also been on here saying Sean Johnson deserves some respect too. So like I'm glad Sean Johnson made it. Horvath, cool story. But yeah, it's like I think we've seen Steffen go from here's this guy who's like a really good project to like never really developing. Like he didn't go to Man City and get any better, which is kind of weird. And every time you hear about him now for Middlesbrough, it's like he's making a mistake.
Yeah, you don't really hear him be like, wow, Steffen stood on his head this game. Mm-hmm. You know, and there was a spell where he wasn't even the starter. Like the backup was the one playing over Steffen. Mm-hmm. Berhalter said it multiple times. I listened to this post-reveal press conference, and he said it on stage at the reveal that it's not what Steffen didn't have. It was they felt comfortable. The USMNT coaching staff felt comfortable with the 3 that they already picked.
Yeah, that's clearly a cop-out.
Whatever that means.
Like you want to turn the focus on the players you picked, like because those are your guys, you're riding with them. I'm sure it has something to do with what Steffen did. But, yeah, Turner earned a spot. Sean Johnson earned a spot. Horvath came up big in the Nations League final against Mexico. He subbed in the championship playoff with who is it, Forrest?
Yeah.
So, like, he clearly has, like, big game experience. I don't know if Berhalter's projecting forward in case, like, you know, Turner goes down mid-game and needs, like, a goalie with, like, mid-game experience. But, so I think it was smart for him to just flip it and say, we trust these three. Leave it at that.
Berhalter calls Horvath Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, it's such, like, a corny name, too.
But, you know, I'm not a goalkeeper guy. Hashtag not a goalie guy.
Hashtag
not a
balls. Hashtag warm balls.
Hashtag I'm not a goalie guy, so I shouldn't be the one making decisions on goalies, but
I trust Turner's feet enough, right? I'm not saying he's going to like ping perfect passes, but I trust it enough. I trust his shot stopping. I think he's growing in confidence. Like in these games, I feel like he's felt like he's the guy. So yeah, I'm cool with that.
yeah, me too.
You want to move on to defenders? You want to give us the center backs first?
Yeah, we'll do center backs. So, Cameron Carter-Vickers, he's what's he, the Fridge? That's his nickname, the Fridge.
Yeah.
He's over at Celtic in Scotland. He's got 11 caps, the national team. Also, we got Aaron Long, 29 caps with the national team, 3 goals actually. Aaron, he's with the Red Bulls in New York. Looking through because they mixed them all up. Tim Ream from Fulham, he's got 46 caps with the national team. And obviously it's Walker Zimmerman. He's with Nashville SC. He's won Defender of the Year multiple times in the MLS. He's got 33 caps with the national team.
Mm-hmm. So that's 4 total?
Yeah, so 4 total. Yeah, like we expected, Walker Zimmerman. Aaron Long, I thought, was, with the amount of times he's been called into the national team the past couple windows, you expect that he'd be a lock. Mm-hmm. Tim Ream's kind of like the shocking one just because he hasn't been called in over a year. Mm-hmm. But I was just going to say, Berhalter talked about the Ream situation and said he's playing in the Premier League right now and he's putting together good performances, which is kind of true, but sometimes he does get exposed because he's like so slow. He does get exposed sometimes in the Premier League. Like, yeah, people are hyping him up saying he's captaining one of the teams in the Premier League, but he can get exposed. Like,
he's also 34 years old.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Fridge, you know, I don't know what role he's going to play in the World Cup. I'm just unsure about that.
So I feel like it was kind of light. I probably would have taken 5 center backs.
The fact that you take 3 right backs, we'll talk about that later. But yeah.
I mean, maybe he uses a right back as like a pseudo, like right center back, but that just proves that I don't think we'll ever go 3 in the back, which we've experimented with, not necessarily as a starting formation in a while. We've done that before, but as like a kind of hybrid formation.
I disagree. I think bringing Tim Ream in, you could possibly, if you wanted to bring to play 3 in the back. Like we've seen them switch to like a build-up shape with 3 center backs. I think that's one of the reasons why Reggie Cannon didn't get called in is because Tim Ream can play that role on the other side, on the left side, where Reggie Cannon has played that role before on the right side.
Well, it seems like they wanted to play through the right side with Reggie Cannon or even like a Chris Richards. So let's just talk about it real quick. Chris Richards injured. He probably would have been on the roster. No Miazga, who was like in and out. Like as we got closer, it was telling that he wasn't going to make the roster. No Eric Palmer Brown. No Mark McKenzie, who I really like. So yeah, maybe they're like, we can create that build-up structure with Tim Ream on the left. And he started, might be his last national team start, to be honest. The Nations League final against Mexico in 2021. And he got kind of exposed there by Tecatito a few times, if I remember right. But yeah, you can create that, and maybe that helps mitigate, like, if Long can be the center back. He's not great at passing to his left. Like, he's not very, like, left-footed, but plays on the left side of the 4-3-3 sometimes. So maybe you stick Long in the middle, and then Zimmerman has the mobility and I think passing range, too, to be able to play on the right side. So you have 2 good passers, and then you throw in, like, Long to just be like a meathead. in the middle. It's like a sweeper or something. So then you could roll with something like Ream, Long, Zimmerman, Musa and Adams, and then like a McKinney. Then you get further up the field. You don't really, I guess, have wingbacks. Like that's just in general. I think it would make more sense if you want to create that structure to just drop Tyler Adams back if you think you need help building up, than to throw another center back on the field. But the U.S. also did just hire a set piece coach, so you get a Aaron Long, Ream, and Zimmerman all on the field. Those are 3 set piece threats.
Yeah.
Sure. Carter Vickers, I also don't know what his role would be. I don't see him playing. Like, if we play 2 center backs, I don't see him ever, like, touching the field at all. Yeah. And then if we play 3, I would think maybe he would sub in for Aaron Long, but that's it. Like, as the middle guy in the 3.
Yeah, I agree. I think I guess he's probably 4th string. Yeah.
But I like Ream. I've always kind of liked Ream. Like, I am kind of like a Tim Ream. I feel like when I play, slower. Like I would call myself a pretty good pretty composed passer, I guess. Not exactly the most like big like aerial threat, similar to Tim Ream. I don't think he's like a massive like beast in the air. But like,
no, you were Azpilicueta.
Yeah, but less mobile, definitely. Maybe Azpilicueta now, not Azpilicueta like in his prime. But I also think like if you had to put me in a pro game, where would I do the best? I would say like as an outside center back at a 3 in the back. I mean, I'd get exposed too, but I feel like I would set myself up there. So,
yeah.
All right, so that's like the center backs. I think we both. Personally, I don't think Aaron Long was ever that good anyway, but the hate that he gets on social media is just ridiculous. I think people just want somebody or something to hate, so they're just like, I don't think Aaron Long's good, so I'm just gonna hate him.
That's facts, dude. Like, he shouldn't be here, but he is. Like, he made his way. Like, you gotta, like, respect that. Like, his path to get to the national team is insane. Like, starting, like...
He played in, like, USL. I think he played college. I mean, I was just listening to a podcast with Jesse Marsh, too, and he coached him at Red Bulls, and he was saying, like, the guy just, he wants to win, and he's just, like, a great guy. And I don't think people think of that stuff enough too. Like you want a center back who's like bringing everyone along. The US YouTube channel posted a mic'd up with Aaron Long, and it was just like he seems like a really good team friendly guy.
Yeah, it's not all about just like the formation. It's how like the team plays and like a certain role a guy puts on in the team. Everyone's just like, this is my like the US Soccer has their app, and you can post your starting 11. Like it's not just about putting players into a formation. It's way more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Right. Do we get a fullback?
Yeah. We'll start with. You want me to just name them all?
Yeah, just go.
Yeah,
I mean,
just name them all.
Yeah.
All right. Serginho Dest. He's at AC Milan this season. He's got 19 appearances. Shaq Moore. He's also on Nashville. He's got 15 appearances. Anthony Robinson, also at Fulham, along with Tim Ream. He's got 29 appearances. Joe Scally, Borussia Mönchengladbach. He's only got 3 appearances, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then you got DeAndre Yedlin, who's the most capped player on this team. He's currently with Inter Miami. He's got 75 appearances.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah.
So DeAndre Yedlin, the only player with World Cup experience on the roster.
For sure.
You would expect Anthony Robinson to be the starter at left back. Probably Serginho Dest starter at right back. You have you would have thought Reggie Cannon would fit in there somewhere, so he's out. Kind of weird to me that Shaq Moore makes the roster. It seemed like he wasn't going to. He had some decent appearances in the Gold Cup in 21, but that didn't seem like enough.
So that's what I'm least familiar with is Shaq Moore on this roster. Just, I mean, he's new to Nashville, right? This might have been his first season with Nashville. Mm-hmm. He recently played in the championship, was it?
No, I think he played in Spain.
Spain? Oh,
yeah.
Dude, I'm way off then.
I think he played in like the second division in Spain for a while, then might have went somewhere else.
So I can't say that Reggie Cannon is better than Shaq Moore just because I haven't seen Shaq Moore enough. But I think I would have brought Reggie Cannon just because of the multiple positions he can play. Like he could probably do a job at left back if needed. Like probably be like a sub left back. I mean, we only got one true left back on the roster.
Yeah, I think
Anthony Robinson's 90 minutes guy every single game.
Dude, Berhalter will run that guy into the ground. But I do think Scally can play left back. He's more of a right back. He started today for Mönchengladbach at right back. So Shaq Moore's right back. I think Berhalter sees – I'm pretty sure he said this before, that he sees Dest as the backup left back and would probably play DeAndre Yedlin at right back and Dest at left back if he had to. I mean, he said it before, the fullbacks are the superpowers, so it's Dest and Robinson. But it gives us some flexibility, too. I think we've seen – if we play with like a three in the back, whether we start with three center backs or it's some kind of like hybrid build-up structure, like maybe it's Ream as a left back, Long, Zimmerman, Yedlin. Ream slides over to for a three in the back. Yedlin gets further up the field, and then you have, whoever, whether it's Pulisic or Weah or somebody fill in that left wide channel. And because Yedlin likes to get higher, and I think he's a better crosser of the ball. But yeah, Dest is probably better as a traditional right back.
Yeah.
Even as a left back, too, we've seen some of his best moments come as a left back where he doesn't necessarily – so on the right, I think he's good overlapping, joining the attack. On the left, if you drop him deeper and the other team leaves like a little pocket of space, like he could drive into that spot and starts to create then. Like he starts driving, he draws a guy. Now there's two or three guys like checking to feet, and then he can combine with Pulisic or combine with a Ferreira or somebody checking too.
I honestly think he's going to do so well in this tournament. Dest. I think he's going to be one of our best players. Yeah. He doesn't play a whole lot for AC Milan this season, but I just feel like when he comes to the U.S., I'm always impressed.
Yeah. So that's something to watch as well. I think there will be one game where we have a different fullback pairing. I think if it was just one game, like if we were preparing for one game and that was our final, I think it's Dest and Robinson. But there's 3 games, and Berhalter continues to say there's one tournament, which is the group stage, and then the next tournament is a knockout round, knockout stages. So I think there's going to be one game where he plans to play a different set of fullbacks. It's not just going to be Robinson and Dest the whole time.
I think it's Robinson, first those 3 games.
Okay.
And then I think it's probably like Dest, Yedlin, Dest. Like for that.
Yedlin against England, though?
Maybe. I don't know.
Is Shaq Moore a better defender?
That's what people say. Is he?
That's what I would have thought Cannon would be good for.
Shaq Moore a good 1v1 defender?
I don't think so. I don't.
That one I'm hearing out of Twitter.
See, something interesting about Shaq Moore, though, is I'm pretty sure he's my age or a year older, but all of the guys that were my age that were on the I'm talking about them like I know them, like I was part of the youth national teams. But the people that were my age on the youth national teams, like the 96s, like were just terrible. They didn't make the U17 World Cup. They flamed out of like everything, bro. Like it was a pretty rough go at it. Yeah. So he was like the only one that like ever made it. Like the 95s, 96s, 97s were just terrible. Because you were the whole generation, but like, yeah. Can we go to midfielders now?
Yeah, I'll just group them all together.
Let's go through center midfielders. You don't need to put like,
Yeah, center midfielders are all put together. So, Well, Brendan Aaronson's listed as a midfielder, so I'll just include him. He's with Leeds, got 24 appearances. Callan Acosta with LAFC, 53 appearances. Tyler Adams, also with Leeds, 32 appearances. Luca De La Torre, who's coming off a bit of an injury. Berhalter said he's probably won't be ready for Game 1, so we probably won't see him until Game 2, maybe.
You act like he was going to play Game 1.
He could come on as a sub. He has been.
Yeah.
Usually one of the first subs. He's got 12 appearances. Weston McKennie, Juventus, 37 appearances. Yunus Musa, Valencia, 19 appearances. And Christian Roldan, Seattle Sounders, 32 appearances.
Low key, some experience in that midfield. Like those guys are racking up the caps.
Yeah.
So who's the biggest center midfield snub?
Biggest center midfield.
Were there any? I mean, like some people were putting like Johnny Cardoso on their roster. I was like,
Johnny Cardoso was
no, he's
maybe
not.
Malik Tillman, but I was never a big Malik Tillman fan. I think he's more of a 2026 guy. Joy Mihalovic.
Yeah, he was an outsider. He never like. I think as we got closer, everyone.
That injury hurt him because he was going to get called in September and
but so I think we'll talk about it in a little bit. But I think the camp in June where they played Uruguay, Morocco, and then the 2 Nations League games was more of a World Cup tune-up because they had time to train and play some tough games rather than that September camp. I don't know what the September camp was for, but there was some inclusions in that camp, and maybe it was like a last-ditch effort or just kind of trying some things. But yeah, I thought the June camp was more important. But all right, back to the midfielders here. I think we see Adams, Musa, McKinney as like the starting 3 for the first game. I don't really see him changing. I see a lot of like rosters or lineup graphics with like Gio as a 10 or Aronson as a 10. I don't really see that. I think he's going to roll with this 3.
Exactly. That's not how the U.S. plays. They don't play a traditional 4-2-3-1. So people continually just throw names into a roster and be like, this is the lineup we should play. Okay, then how are you going to play it?
Yeah.
You just got to ask those people, how are you going to play it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's totally different.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Everyone has an opinion on U.S. soccer Twitter,
So I could see De La Torre subbing into some games. Maybe he's not a player for the England game. I could see him playing against Iran. Berhalter said he's not 90 minutes fit for the first game, but maybe he's 20 minutes fit or 15 minutes fit. Get the tempo. Like, let's say we're up 2-0 on Wales. He'd get the ball, keep the tempo going a little bit. Anybody else sub into that midfield? Like Kellen Acosta, try a sub for somebody.
Yeah, I feel like Kellen Acosta could play the 6 or the Musa role. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't see Roldan getting run.
Yeah. You think you don't think Roldan's going to get any minutes at all?
I don't think so, no. See, you could keep 23 on the game day roster, but you bring 26 to the World Cup.
Oh, okay.
So I think he's number 24, 25, or 26.
Gotcha.
Number 26, Christian Roldan.
I wonder what number he's going to wear.
They announced the squad numbers, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, so there's Aronson maybe could get some run in there as a sub if he doesn't sub in or start as in the front 3 as well. But Berhalter's mentioned in his press conference that Aronson can play both. So he acknowledges it. I think he sees Aronson as both.
Yeah, people are looking too far into it, being like, oh, Brendan Aronson's listed as a midfielder.
Yeah, I don't think that really matters.
He's played both for a while now. All right. Forwards.
Here we go.
You want to go wing? I'll name the wingers. Jordan Morris, Seattle Sounders, 49 appearances. Christian Pulisic, Chelsea, 52 appearances. Gio Reyna, Dortmund, 14 appearances. And then Weah, Lille, 25 appearances. Okay.
So, pretty good group. I would think that's the strongest group we have, right? I mean, Pulisic's a lock starter in every game.
On the left.
On the left. Maybe they move him around. I think the biggest decision is, can Reyna start? If he can start, then you probably start him. Tim Weah has been coming off the bench recently. He's never seemed to be like a high minutes guy, but he has been in World Cup qualifying for the U.S. and he's been pretty good for the U.S. as well. So I'm really excited to see Tim Weah. Honestly, like I was reading a blog post or something about Tim Weah, like looking at his stats, and he has the production profile of like a high priced player, but he just doesn't have the minutes because he gets hurt all the time. He's always like inconsistent.
Yeah, I think he's kind of like the spark off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It seems like a cop-out to be like, oh, he can't play high minutes, so just bring him on for the last 30. But maybe that's what he is. Like, I would think maybe like you put him in as a spark off the bench with a forward who makes like direct runs into the box, bigger forward that heads stuff in, rather than a Ferreira type who likes to link up. I don't know.
Good point. Maybe like a Haji Wright.
Yeah. So I think there's a chance Jordan Morris gets some minutes as a sub, like very late minutes. Like, hey, we still have an unused sub with 5 or 10 minutes left. Let's throw Jordan Morris in. But I would think Aaronson's ahead of Morris. Way or Reyna, whichever one doesn't start, ahead of Morris. Areola got snubbed out of this group. Areola's been trusted by Berhalter this whole time. So that's kind of surprising. And he's been in good form, too. He moved to FC Dallas this year. He's been good for FC Dallas. So that was kind of disappointing.
So Berhalter said the reason why Areola has been getting so much run with the national team is because the wing, like players in this position, the wingers, have been hurt. Mm-hmm. So it just so happens that now they're all healthy, and he's the odd man out. But then you got Areola.
He's been better than Jordan Morris.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, like, they've been training down there in Texas, right? Mm-hmm. Those two, especially. Maybe Morris just outperformed them.
Yeah.
In those small group sessions down there in Texas.
Well, I think they have some U20s there or something, but where they train with 8 guys. But Areola's also done a role as like a wing back, like in a pinch, like he could be that wide guy that's in the wide channel. Like Morris is not really that. I thought Morris was like on another level, like lock starter if we were to start the World Cup in like 2020. Like I thought he was really good, and then he went to Swansea, and I was like so excited for him to like prove himself in the championship, and like show he could do it in Europe, and then he tore his ACL. So that kind of set him back, but he's just such like a boring guy.
Jordan Morris.
The ultimate American. All right, let's go on to the forward.
Did he play the 9 at all, or
Morris?
Yeah, just a question.
I think he can, but he hasn't. Like same thing with Weah. A lot of people ask, can Weah play the 9? And I think they both could, but they never have for the U.S., so I don't see them giving it a run now.
Gotcha.
Like, yeah, your proposed USMNT lineup graphic looks great with Weah as the 9 and Reyna as the right winger.
Yes,
but like that's just not how it's going to work.
Hmm? I said yes, just fit all the best players into one team.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9s, we got Jesus Ferreira from FC Dallas, 15 appearances, 7 goals in 15 appearances. We got Josh Sargent from Norwich. He's got 20 appearances. And Haji Wright from, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the team name, his team in Turkey. He's got 3 appearances, 1 goal with the national team.
Wow. So, big snubs here, obviously. Ricardo Pepi, Jordan Pefok, the two biggest ones. Josie Altidore, ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
I will still fight to the death that he could have, if he stayed healthy in the January camp of 21, he'd be on this roster, but I guess he didn't. So
the Haji Wright came in because he's apparently in good form with his club team.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's kind of Haji Wright or Pefok, right? Like the profile of striker that they are.
Berhalter compared them in his press conference, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, so I watched some Haji Wright highlights like this season with his club team, and he looks pretty good. He's kind of like Pefok. Maybe does a little bit more like can do a little bit more. Pefok's kind of just like a hold-up guy, like strong guy, but Haji like can make runs too. He's pretty decent on the ball as well. So maybe that went into consideration of picking Haji over Pefok. And I feel like Pepe's more similar to like a player like Ferreira in a way.
Well, I think, dude, the Haji Wright highlights, like I went back and watched them too because like I haven't watched him since he last played for the U.S. And sounded like Berhalter didn't like how he played last time he played for the U.S.
Yeah.
Dude, it looked so ugly. Like maybe it was just because like it was like a Turkish field. The game was ugly. I don't know, but he was just like slow and like he was scoring goals off of like deflections and stuff. It just seemed like ugly and like mucked up. I think he's a sub at best. I don't think he'll start a game at all. I think it's going to be Ferreira and then probably Sargent. And Berhalter said he likes Josh Sargent, like he plays in the championship. There's guys on the Welsh team that play in the championship. Obviously, like plays in England. We play England. I think that's a bit of like BS and just like decent reasoning for Berhalter because he thinks like Sargent's more physical than Pepe. I think it's probably Ferreira starts the first game, Sargent starts the second game. So like he could just try to beat the crap out of like Maguire and whoever else starts for England. And then Ferreira is the starter from there out. And I think Haji Wright is probably just maybe he gets the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I'm not as like attached to Pepe as a lot of people. A lot of people are like heartbroken that Pepe's not on the roster. Like he had like 3 good games for the U.S. and then just like rode that momentum to like being the starter who like kind of underperformed.
Yeah, but more good games for the U.S. than Sargent and Haji Wright, you know?
Yeah, I'm not really a Sargent guy. He's been playing better in the championship this season, but still, you know.
And his like we said, his reaction video to getting a call from Berhalter is just nice to see.
Yeah, vibes. But I will say there were times where Pepe would sub in for Pepe would sub in for like a Ferreira or somebody else in qualifying or like more recent games, and it seemed like someone like Pulisic was more comfortable linking up with Pepe because he would be there, he'd kind of be in the right spots. But I don't know, man. I just never really thought that highly of Pepe. I think he scored a couple goals, and people just assumed he was that good, and he was like the savior of U.S. soccer, and he just kind of wasn't. I wasn't totally on the Pepe train.
Yeah. Berhalter said it also comes down to the league that Pepe was playing into. He says the Dutch league isn't as physical as the Turkish league. Mm-hmm. He said that Haji Wright has 7 goals this year in his league. 9 goals. Mm-hmm. And Batshuayi, I believe, right? He plays for Besiktas.
Lukaku.
What?
Yeah.
No. What are you talking about?
Lukaku plays for Besiktas.
Lukaku?
Yeah.
Is he on loan there? What are you talking about?
I don't know. He has 5 goals. I'd listen to the interview as well.
No, they were talking about how the starting striker for Belgium currently is in Turkey. Only has 5 goals on the season. In the same league as Haji Wright, is what he was trying to say. So I took it as Michy Batshuayi. That's all I was trying to say. He also said, Berhalter also went on to say, this is about Ferreira now.
Batshuayi is going to be the starting striker for Belgium?
Well, Lukaku's hurt. He's on the roster, but he's currently hurt right now. That's all I was trying to say.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll say that for the Belgian preview then, because that messed with me too. Yeah,
my bad. Well, maybe it's Berhalter's fault. But Berhalter also said about Ferreira is that he understands this is the exact quote, he understands the game model very well.
Sure he does.
So, Ferreira understands the game model very well, man. That's what it comes down to.
I'm not a huge Ferreira guy either, but I mean, there's also a case to be made like Berhalter said Pepe did a lot for us in qualifying. You could make a case Pepe saved Berhalter's job. I don't think Berhalter was going to get fired, but if we go down to, where was it, Honduras? We're down 1-0. If Pepe doesn't score those 2 goals, and I think Anthony Robinson got it started too. Pepe doesn't score those goals, like we're 1 draw and 2 losses to start qualifying before another month before the next window. Like maybe Berhalter does get canned, or maybe he's on the hot seat, putting more pressure for the next game. So kind of interesting as well.
Yep.
But like it shows that he seems like he cares about form, like very recent form. PFOC was in great form to start the season and has cooled off since. And like if you're having a World Cup in October, P. Fox on the roster. And then he has a bad 6-week stretch, and now he's not. So he's really taken form into account.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Especially at the forward position.
Yeah. And then there was people like our boy Alexi Lawless made a big deal about Haji Wright making the World Cup and like tried to make it like a hyped up clip that he could, put on his TikTok and Twitter. Like, Haji Wright? Yeah. But Haji Wright on this? Like, all right,
Haji
dude. Like, now, you could look at the vibes and say that Haji Wright was on the youth national teams. It was the more hyped up prospect than Christian Pulisic. And there's stories that all of the scouts, like the Dortmund scouts, whatever, were coming to watch Haji Wright instead of Pulisic. And then they're like, who's this scrawny kid and whatever. And they found Pulisic. So maybe Haji Wright is just like a sacrificial roster spot for Pulisic getting to Europe there.
Dude, I used to watch those highlight videos all the time. Hopefully trying to make, like, however old I was, 13, trying to make, like, some U13 national team. I was like, I want that to be me.
U13 national team?
Haji Wright scored, like, every game.
Mm-hmm. He was
if he can rekindle that form, dude, we're winning the World Cup.
If he could just get back to his 2015 form, we're in good shape. That's why you're wearing that kit. You're summoning the Haji Wright.
Let's go. They were probably literally wearing these kits, too, before.
Yeah. They had some big results. Like they beat Brazil one time in a friendly down in Florida.
I think that was like the final of like the Nike Invitational thing or whatever it was. And Pulisic won MVP.
Those games were lit too. Like there was like a ton of people in the crowd.
Yeah. All right. Now that we talked about the roster, which is like the biggest talk of.
Here's one. We'll each ask each other this question. If you could add one player to this roster and subtract one, who would it be? For the success of the team.
Reggie Cannon instead of Shaq Moore.
You think that makes that big of a difference?
I mean, the core guys are already on the. It's not like we're missing anyone that would pretty much start, right? Like, I think the biggest question marks, right, are center back and number 9.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of limited with center backs, but like you got options at the 9. I think Ferreira is our best option at the moment. Mm-hmm. So then I just liked Cannon and like what he brought and the different positions he can play. So I just Cannon over Shaq Moore.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like getting in heated debates and like making like full podcasts about like who the 25th, 26th guy is. It's like it doesn't really matter like on the field. It probably matters more in the locker room and on the training field and, in your Twitter mentions, but not so much on the field.
There's probably someone out there going, John Brooks instead of Aaron Long.
Yeah, it's like, come on. Like, John Brooks hasn't been a part of it in, like, years. Like, more than, over a year.
Over a year,
yeah. Literally, John Brooks gets yanked from that one game in Honduras at halftime. We subbed Pepe on. I don't think they were for each other. I think he subbed out Brooks. We subbed out Brooks and Sands. Subbed in another center back. Because we started in 3 in the back, went to 4-3-3. Subbed in Pepe for Sargent, I think. And then just, like, took the game over. And it wasn't because of those subs, but, so just kind of... And that, I think, was the last time, like, we saw Brooks. And maybe Brooks had, like, a blow-up or something about it.
Yep. What was your pick?
I don't... Like, I think there's a case, like, there's a lot of people complaining that there's no Mexican Americans on the roster, but, like, which ones do you want to pick? A lot of them chose to go try to play for Mexico. I think a lot of them, Uli Lanes, Alex Mendez, either injury problems or, like, went to a club where they weren't going to be really part of the first team setup, so it set their careers back years. But if you're just thinking of, like, form right now, who got snubbed off the roster... I would have liked to see Vasquez get some shots as the summer went on, and I've been saying that for a while. Not saying it would have made a difference, but like if you're bringing Haji Wright, like you could have brought Brandon Vasquez as well.
He got snubbed in September.
Yeah,
which should have been his opportunity.
But if you're gonna snub him if you know you're not gonna bring him anyway, like might as well snub him in September and bring somebody that you're gonna This is also so much different than World Cups in the past. Like, like we said, I think Berhalter used like training camps in the summer to really prepare for the World Cup, and I think he's really just going to base it off of form and like some quick instructions and then just roll with it. You really don't have any time to prepare. It's crazy.
Yeah. About a week, right? Like the team just got there to Qatar, but you you also got guys who are playing on the weekend.
Yeah.
Basically, the MLS guys are ever in Qatar.
Yeah. So it's like Roldan and like Zimmerman training in Doha.
They posted the video of them doing like diamond passing
Mm-hmm.
on their Instagram story, and it was just like kind of slow. So I sent it to you, and you responded, "It just must be the heavy legs."
Yeah, the jet lag, man. They're getting used to the time.
Probably. All right. You ready to get into Group B?
Yeah. So we break down the roster. We get into Group B. Do you want to walk us through England? Do you want me to start? How do you want to roll?
Let's go with the U.S. and then I'll go England and the rest of the countries. You just start with the U.S. since we already talked about the U.S. Go ahead.
All right. So United States, on the one website, they were 150 to 1 to win the World Cup. I'm sure the odds are like lower. Like they're more of a favorite than 150 to 1 at like American sports books, but it shows, I think, around the world there's very little respect for the U.S. as a real contender. They're 16th in the FIFA rankings, nicknamed the Yanks, and their head coach is Greg Berhalter, probably going to play a 4-3-3, most likely a single pivot. So their form, they finished third. I'll say we, right? This is our team. One nation, one team. We finished third in CONCACAF qualifying with 25 points, tied with Costa Rica, but we're ahead of them on goal differential. So we lose to Costa Rica last day of World Cup qualifying, but as long as we didn't lose by like 8 or something, we were through. So we lose whatever it was, 1 or 2-0. We got that automatic spot. Costa Rica had to go through the intercontinental qualifying. We had 7 wins, 4 draws, and 3 losses. Not the best. We lose up at Canada. We lose away to El Salvador? Or maybe we got the win in El Salvador. That's when we were down 1-0 at halftime. Lost away at Honduras. One of the two. Where was the other loss? Oh, at Costa Rica, obviously. Some draws. Drew away at Mexico. Pretty cool at the Azteca. There's always going to be draws in World Cup qualifying. It's tough. Like I mentioned earlier, I personally think that the Morocco-Uruguay friendlies, then leading into the Nations League, which was I think so. We beat Morocco 3-0, tied Uruguay 0-0, which is pretty like nonchalant friendly. Then we beat like some island 4-5-0, which is, I think Ferreira had 3 or 4 goals, which is why his goal scoring record looks so good. And then it was 1-1 away at Honduras. Was it Honduras where it was like the really muddy game? And Ariella got the red card. Either way, it was Nations League. I don't think it was taken that seriously, but a 4-game window with a lot of trainings. I think that was the most important time for the U.S. Most recent friendlies in September with Japan and Saudi Arabia, I think they were just tune-ups. If you look at that roster, a lot of those guys didn't make it. You would have thought, hey, Tim Ream is starting the Premier League. Let's give him a run here. And he didn't. So I think he was just giving other opportunities there. And I really think that the form, the club form matters more because of when this World Cup is. So this is, it's just like a unique experience having the World Cup right in the middle of club season. And that's why I think Berhalter was just pretty much pointing out, hey, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, Ream's been good. Over the last 3 or 4 weeks, Haji Wright's been good. Because those are the guys that, like, if you're not rolling with your studs, you only have 5 to 7 studs anyway, roll with the guys who are in form. So we'll go through some key players. Christian Pulisic, lock starter every game. Gio Reyna, if he's not starting, he's going to be subbing in every game. Yunus Musa, probably going to be starting every game. Weston McKennie, Juventus, he's going to be a starter every game. Serginho Dest and Walker Zimmerman. So I just want to go over Yunus Musa real quick. I think it's I highlighted Yunus Musa and Walker Zimmerman as two guys like highlight their rise to being pros, and like you couldn't have two opposites. One so American, Yunus Musa didn't grow up in America at all. So Yunus Musa, he's 19 years old, plays for Valencia in Spain, but he was born in New York City while his Ghanaian mother was on vacation. Don't know why they were in New York City. He might have had family or something, but yeah, he lived in Italy till he was 9. Then he moved to London, and while he was in London, joined the Arsenal Academy. So he got this really good training. He's been good since a young age, got really good training. While he was there, he played for the England U15s, U18s. While he was 16, moved to Valencia in Spain and played for their B team in the second division. Made his first team debut at age 17 in September of 2020, and then around that time he got called up to the England U19s in October 2020, and that's when like the heat was kind of on to see who would secure his national team allegiance. Got called up to the U.S. men's national team in November of 2020, played some friendlies there, and then officially committed in March of 21 to the United States. Before that, there was talk that Gareth Southgate was going to try and call him up for some friendlies with the English national team, but I'm sure he saw there was no real path for him to get into that first team in the 22 cycle. While with the U.S., he could have.
Yeah.
The U.S. had an assistant coach who had contacts at Valencia or spent some time coaching at Valencia. So I think that's what really helped move the conversation along and persuade Musa. And I think if he would have stayed in England, if he would have stayed with Arsenal or another club, he probably would have played for the English national teams, the youth national teams. But I think moving to Spain kind of opened that door. I think he could have played for Ghana, could have played for England, could have played for the U.S. Might have been one more, maybe Italy, because when he was there, yeah. So I think moving to Spain really helped us too, and obviously having the contact at Valencia. And then kind of the total opposite, you have Walker Zimmerman. He grew up in Georgia, just played for some youth soccer club. I guess they were pretty decent. I'm not sure. Played high school soccer. He played soccer at Furman University. Was freshman of the year in his conference. Then he was All-American as a sophomore, and then he left to join the MLS Super Draft. Number 7 pick in the 2013 draft by FC Dallas. Played well for FC Dallas up until 2017 when he was traded to LAFC when they came in as an expansion team. Then he was traded to Nashville, another expansion team in 2020. There he has a couple MLS Defender of the Year awards. His first call-up was under Bruce Arena in January of 2017. So the January camp leading up to probably the most important time in qualifying. So he didn't break in. He wasn't part of that necessarily, the failure at Trinidad and before that against Costa Rica. But interesting enough, Tim Ream was part of that. Tim Ream, I think, started the home game at Red Bull Arena against Costa Rica. So that was kind of the last time Tim Ream was in. Interesting to see how Walker Zimmerman was kind of on his way in, foot in the door, but never really broke in, until recently, until he started performing, much better in MLS. So yeah, that's kind of the lowdown on the U.S. We've covered it enough. I feel like we don't need to really talk about how they're going to play. I feel like we've covered that a ton.
Good stuff, Andrew. That was interesting stuff. Way to go. All right.
You got to give me the clap like you're in class and you present something and everyone claps for you.
Now we'll hop into the rest of the teams in Group B. So we obviously got England, Iran, and Wales. First, we'll take a look at England. One of the favorites, 7-1 odds. They're ranked 5th in the latest FIFA rankings, and obviously their nickname's the Three Lions, coached by Gareth Southgate. And they usually play a 3-4-2-1, 3-4-3, however you want to call it. Form. They were unbeaten in qualifying and recently drew Germany and beat Italy in their latest, I think it was Nations League group. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk of who's going to start what. I mean, in America, you kind of get a lot of the English media because it's all surrounded by the Premier League and stuff. So I feel like I know most about England than any other team outside the U.S. just because I'm reading up about it, watching YouTube videos, ESPN FC, of course, all about it. So players to watch. They expect in the back to be John Stones, Ben White, Kyle Walker's supposedly going to be back. He's coming off an injury. Harry Maguire will be back there. Luke Shaw's their only left back, true left back, similar to U.S. where they only have one true left back. I mean, that doesn't really matter, like when you're comparing the teams, but just something interesting. Mm-hmm. And then right back, they did bring Trent. There was some talk that they weren't even going to bring him, but obviously with no Reece James, you got Trent, you got Trippier. Their midfield too. Andrew will talk about him in a second, but Jude Bellingham is one of the best young players in the world, probably one of the best center mids in the world. Mm-hmm. So their two center mids will most likely be Bellingham and Rice, and I think those two play really well together in that formation.
And that was Calvin Phillips the whole Euros. It was Rice and Phillips the whole time.
Yeah, Calvin Phillips is in the squad as well, so we could probably see him a decent amount. He's also coming back from injury, I believe.
Jordan Henderson might have to get some run in there as well.
Who?
Henderson.
Yeah, Jordan Henderson's in the squad. Got Mason Mount, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish. James Maddison made the roster, which people are like, wow, James Maddison made the roster. Nobody should be saying that. He's one of the most informed players in the world right now. I think if he starts against the U.S., we're in trouble because I think he's one of the best players for England at the moment. Clear of Mount. We won't get too much into it, but you also got Raheem Sterling, Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, Callum Wilson is their backup number 9 instead of Ivan Toney, which some people have been calling for. Mm-hmm. So Andrew's going to break down Jude Bellingham for us.
Yeah, so like we look at this roster, and I would say a lot of these guys have developed in very similar ways. Like we talked about the Netherlands and how a lot of their players are just they sign with a club that, you know, they develop till they're 15, 16, whatever. They move to another club. Maybe they play for the first team. Maybe they move up to another club like a PSV or an Ajax. And then from there they get sold and so on. England's pretty similar where there's so many clubs that the development is like pretty standard. Where in the U.S., you have a dual national who grew up outside of the U.S., and then you have a guy who's in the U.S., you know, playing college soccer. So I feel like the England is pretty standard, and I want to highlight Jude Bellingham because I think this is he was like such a prominent youngster, but it's a fairly similar path. So he's 19 years old currently. Joined Birmingham when he was an under 8, so he's very young. Made his debut for the U23s at the age of 15. He was too young for the first team at the time. They thought that, you know, he's small, scrawny. So they kind of like made him the 19th man on the game day roster. So he would travel with the team. They kind of do everything with him. And it showed like they really believed in him. They just didn't want to rush him into things. So unlike our boy Freddie Adu, who was probably rushed into things and, you know, they didn't quite look after him, Bellingham did.
Good point.
Or was. He was the youngest first team player when he was at the age of 18. They played him as a left winger and would slowly transition him into the center of midfield, just so that way he could like take his time to adjust to the pace rather than just being like thrown into the fire right away.
You think they did that on purpose?
What'd you say?
They did that on purpose, you think?
Yeah, like he would start, like if he would start or sub in, he'd play like left wing and like every once in a while get a game as center mid.
Gotcha.
January of 2020, Birmingham turned down £20 million offer from Man United. And then in July of 2020, it was between Dortmund and Man United, and Dortmund came in with a £25 million offer. So he left and went to Dortmund. He started playing with the England U15s in 2016, and he got appearances at all levels: U16s, U18s, U20s, all above his time. Right, he was always one of the younger guys on those rosters. He became the youngest player ever to play at the Euros at age 17. So he subbed in, I think, a game or two, but didn't get a whole lot of run. Like we mentioned, it was mostly Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice. And then I just think Jude Bellingham's such a good example of like this English youth movement, right? So we've talked on here before about England had some disappointing runs in the mid-2000s, early 2010s, and I think they've went out and just like sought to like kind of revamp their system a little bit. They have these great academies. How can we get more skillful players involved? So it's about staying on the ball, developing creativity, and like letting these like creative players be creative players rather than trying to fit them in the box of like playing perfect soccer. So that's why you get a Phil Foden who's like insane with his left foot and like is so good in tight spaces and like a great thinker of the game. That's why you get a Jude Bellingham who could be like the feisty guy who can kind of do it all. That's why you get Declan Rice who's a big guy, but he's not just put in the box of like a traditional defensive midfielder to break up plays. He could drive forward with the ball. He can attack. Yeah, I just like I like how Jude Bellingham is an example of this youth movement, and he's really good. I watched a decent amount of Dortmund. He's legit.
He's been in great goal scoring form too this season. Dortmund.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff.
So what are your thoughts on England? Do you think they are the best? Like, does the U.S. have a chance? Are they going to run away with number one in the group?
I think anyone has a chance, right? Like, it comes down to whoever's on the field, right? Like, England is so deep. Mm-hmm. Well, they have so many options to play, but it's kind of a corny thing to say, but you can only play 11 guys at a time, right? And it's the World Cup; anything can happen. So I think England tops the group probably on like 7 points. It's 2 wins and a draw, something like that. So
I'm not that like. So England in 2018, I think got very lucky to make the semifinals, and like pretty similar in the Euros as well. I don't think their squad like depth is pretty strong. I just don't like believe in them as a team. Like Sterling not playing his best soccer right now, like at Chelsea. Like Kane, I don't think he's playing that well. I just like no one up top really scares me. Like I think the Foden, Grealish, Maddison could be dangerous. Mount is not in like great form. I think what's their superpower is the fact that they have these like center midfielders, like a Rice, like a Bellingham, that are just like can control the midfield by themselves.
I think it's also they've gotten far in the past 2 major tournaments, and they're probably like they should be looking to finally like get over the hump here. Like, so I think there's a chance they're one of those teams making it to the final, making it to the semifinal. So I expect England to be up and around there.
Really, I'm not that high on England.
I think they will, just because there's some teams who are. I mean, if we're talking like outlook, obviously like you got Brazil and Argentina, but like a team like Belgium's kind of fading. Netherlands are still good. Portugal is talented, but like kind of the same situation as England, where they have all these deep, like players who are like in all these different positions or whatever. But you can only play like your 11, right? Yeah. So England does have some holes maybe in their starting lineup, maybe in the back.
Yeah.
Walker's just coming back, but like Ben White can play that role on the right side of the 3. People bash on Maguire, but Maguire's actually done pretty well for England. So, yeah.
Also, like they don't have Chilwell, so they're only Chilwell's out. So who's the left back? Luke Shaw. Like I think it helps that we play them the second game. Like maybe they get a little beat up. Maybe someone, I don't know, I doubt someone gets a red card, but like maybe someone needs a rest or gets injured or something. And then like you're really looking at holes, right? Like if it's, one of their center backs goes down or Luke Shaw goes down or Kane goes down, like then I think it gets thin pretty quick and becomes an easier game for us.
Yeah. All right. Ready for Wales?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we got Wales and Iran. So Wales are 100-1 odds. They're ranked 19th in FIFA. Their nickname's the Dragons. Rob Page is their manager. They play a 3-4-2-1.
Hold on, if Wales is 100-1, I must have gotten the wrong odds on the U.S. then, because there's no way Wales are a heavier favorite than we are.
I think they are.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I took all my odds from the same website. I don't know where you got your odds from. Would you just sign in the DraftKings and look at
No, I just Googled like World Cup odds, and they could be like they're obviously going to be different when if you're looking at someplace in England versus someplace in New Jersey. But go ahead.
All right. Current form, they finished second behind Belgium in their World Cup qualifying group, which is pretty expected, right? Belgium is one of the top teams. They qualified through the playoff by beating Ukraine on a 1-0 goal from Gareth Bale. Obviously, dude's like a hero for Wales. That's the big story is Gareth Bale. Like, probably Gareth Bale's last time playing for Wales. So, like, that's the big storyline. Gareth Bale is a superstar, or was a superstar, but the amount of hype around him is insane, mostly because he's playing in America now.
I mean, to be honest, like, he could retire, like, after the World Cup.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. Like, it's probably could be his last last couple games for Wales.
Like, he's not even like I wouldn't even call him. I wouldn't even call him a super sub for LAFC. He's just kind of a sub. Like, can't really stay healthy. Like, there's no way he can make it all 3 group games.
I don't think he's going to start all 3.
Yeah.
He could be a super sub for them. I don't know, but obviously he's got 108 appearances for Wales, 40 goals, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Goal to game ratio. Defenders got Ben Davies, Joe Rodon, Nico Williams, Ethan Ampadu. Wingers and midfielders, you got Harry Wilson, Dan James, Aaron Ramsey, Kiefer Moore, who's playing who's he for in the Premier League?
Bournemouth?
Bournemouth?
Yeah.
Is it Bournemouth? Yeah. I think he could cause problems.
Yeah. He's
He's caused problems in the Euros. That's when I first heard about him. Dude, he's massive. He can win headers. Like, I think in a knockout tournament, like he could cause problems.
Has he seen an Aaron Long before?
I don't think so, man.
Has he seen a fridge before?
I think Aaron Long locks him up. The player that I highlighted is Brendan Johnson, though. He's on Nottingham Forest. 21-year-old forward, born in Nottingham. Nothing really special about him, but I thought I'd share a little bit. Born in Nottingham, joined Forest at the age of 8, debut at 18. Spent a loan spell with Lincoln City. While Nottingham Forest were in the Championship, Lincoln City were in League One. He had 10 goals that season, so I think he was roughly around 19 when he played for Lincoln City, which is pretty good return, 10 goals on that season. And he was eligible to represent England, Jamaica, and Wales.
Wow.
And I think he'll play a pretty good role with this Wales side. I don't know if he's going to play the 9 or one of those positions underneath the 9. We'll have to see. But they also have good options out wide. Like I said, Harry Wilson, Dan James. And then Aaron Ramsey always, for some reason, has a good tournament when he's with Wales.
Aaron Ramsey's got to be like 35 at this point, right?
Probably.
Dude's been around forever.
All right. And then probably the team that's projected to finish last in this group, but definitely shouldn't be overlooked, is Iran. They're 501 odds. I think they're the highest ranked Asian team. Wow. They're ranked 20th in FIFA. Their nickname is Team Melli, which means the national team. They're
wow, heck of a nickname there.
Yeah, so stuff is good. Some crazy stuff that's happened with their manager. They had a previous manager. I don't have the name of their previous manager, but he was sacked actually. They normally play a 4-1-4-1, and this new manager, Carlos Queiroz, has just consistently didn't want to change it up, so he just constantly keeps playing the 4-1-4-1, which is fine, right? Like, don't fix it if it's not broken, I guess, right? Like, since they already qualified for the World Cup. So this current manager, he was the assistant for Sir Alex Ferguson from 2002 to 2008. And he's qualified for 4 consecutive World Cups. Portugal in 2010, Iran for 2014, 18, and 22. So he was the head coach in 14 and 18 with Iran. They previously already qualified under their other manager in qualifying, but he got sacked. So Carlos Queiroz took over in September.
So
I don't know if you remember all that talk about how the Iran manager got sacked.
No, so this guy was the manager of Egypt. They didn't make the World Cup. Iran makes the World Cup, but sacked their manager, so they hired this guy.
Yeah, I didn't mention that yet. Yeah, he was the manager of Egypt. They didn't qualify, so he kind of just jumped ship over to Iran to manage in the World Cup. So this is going to be his 4th World Cup. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was something political. I think it was something
that?
political, maybe.
Jeez.
Yeah, so current form, first round of Asian qualifying, 8 games with a plus 30 goal differential. Second round, they topped the group ahead of South Korea, which is pretty good. And like I said, they're the highest ranked Asian team. Sorry if I mess up these names, but their players to watch are Saman Goudos. He's actually a winger for Brentford. He's made like 60 appearances or something for Brentford.
Wow.
Their big name is Taremi from Porto. He's got 60 appearances, 28 goals for Iran. And for Porto, he's got 78 appearances, 42 goals for Porto.
Jeez.
He's their starting 9 for Porto.
Yeah.
He can play on the wing, too. I think I've seen him play on the wing for Iran. And then you got Sadar Azmoun. He's plays for Bayer Leverkusen. And for Iran, he has 65 appearances, 41 goals. So that goal-to-game ratio is pretty insane, too. So they got 2 guys who could be like a real goal-scoring threat, along with Gudus, who's playing on the wing. But Azmoun is labeled as the Iranian Messi. He started playing at the age of 9 and joined a local side playing in the Iran 2nd Division. Joined the first team, which is called Sepahan, before joining Russian side Rubin Kazan, who currently played in the 2nd Division when he joined. Or actually, he joined when they were in the 1st Division. Now they play in the 2nd Division.
Yeah.
So he joined a 1st Division Russian team and made his debut at 18. At age 19, Arsenal put a bid in for him for $2 million. But Rubin Kazan declined. He also had interest from Milan, Juventus, Liverpool, Spurs, Barcelona. So, like, around the age of 19, 20, people really wanted this guy. Like, he was playing first team in the first Division Russian League, which is pretty impressive, I guess. Bounced around Russia, never really, fulfilled his potential. Bounced around Russia, signing for Zenit St. Petersburg, and in 79 appearances had 52 goals for them, which is pretty good because they're usually a Champions League team, right? Like they're usually qualifying for Champions League. Made his way to Leverkusen this year in January on free transfer, but something like 17 appearances and only 1 goal to show for it. So I think Iran could be dangerous because they have a few of those guys who obviously have really good goal-to-game ratio.
Yeah.
I don't know much about their midfield, their defense, anything about that. But honestly, I think it'll be a tough game for any of these teams in Group B.
Pretty dangerous front 3, it sounds like. I mean, all like they're no average Joes, kind of like these guys are players.
Yeah.
I remember hearing when we were first drawn Iran, I remember hearing people talk about how they have a couple dangerous forwards. So, wow. Especially like when guys are, when they're legends for their country, like they have that many goals and that many caps for their country. Like, even if they don't have like a great club career, like it just means more to them. Like those guys aren't going to like quit. They're not going to die out. Like we play Iran the 3rd game. Like even if they're out of it, they could have 2 losses. I'm sure those guys are still going to be like, like balling out to try and like get a result or get some goals or something,
That's what's the best about international soccer is like we were watching, I think it was in the Euros, France versus, was it Germany in one of the early rounds, maybe round of 16 or something.
They played it. They were in the same group.
Maybe it was in group stage. Maybe it was in group stage. I remember you texted me and it was like, dude, this game is such high level or something. You texted me that, which is like insane because like it really was like everyone was buzzing around the pitch, like the way they moved the ball. I think we'll see a change of pace because in players' minds, like in the Premier League and Champions League, players' minds is on the World Cup this season. It's been on the World Cup, so I think we're gonna see like a change of gear, whatever the saying is, up to some pretty high level soccer.
Raise their level. Yeah, they'll exert themselves here, knowing that like they probably didn't exert themselves like they would in like a regular club season.
Yep.
All right. So what are the final predictions for Group B?
So my prediction is England, USA, Wales, and Iran.
Really? All that and Iran finishes last.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough group, man. It's going to be a tough group.
I think it's like a low-key, a tough group. Like, I'm not afraid of Wales being like a dark horse that could like go on a run, or Iran being a dark horse, but like it's just every game individually seems like it's going to be a grind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a cop-out answer to say England and the United States, but that's kind of what I'm rolling with here.
Yeah, so I think England, like I said, probably get 7 points and win the group. I think USA, Wales, and Iran could all get about 3-4 points. So
Just beat each other.
I don't think it's one of those groups where there's one team at the bottom just getting beat up too.
Mm-hmm.
England could tie Iran, and beat. You never know too. You never know.
Yeah, maybe there's a chance that England gets all 9, and then we beat Wales and tie Iran, but Iran ties Wales. It could get crazy. Also, if we lose that first game, obviously we're screwed, because then you could have Wales going in, beating Iran in the second round of games on 6 points, and now we're hoping that England would have to lose to Iran in that last game, or lose to Wales in that last game to give us a chance. So
for the U.S., the first, any team,
yeah,
but the U.S., dude, the first game's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get a point at least. Got to get a win. Hopefully, 3 points would be massive.
Mm-hmm.
Heading into that England game. We could probably do a podcast previewing the Wales game.
Yeah, I think there's more stuff to come. Obviously, the next one will be groups F, G, and H, right? We have 3 more groups to preview. That'll probably be a separate podcast, and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
Cool.
Let's go.
You're getting close, man. I think it's less than 2 weeks now.
Yeah, so it's next weekend, next Sunday, I believe. Or
Jeez.
No, it's next Saturday. Next Saturday.
U.S. plays on a Sunday?
Saturday's game 1, and then the U.S. plays that Sunday.
You sure?
The 20th, yeah.
Oh, wow. I thought we played on Monday.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought we played the 20th and the 25th.
I don't know. We'll check.
Yeah.
We have a podcast. We don't know the days of the game.
Yeah.
All right. So, anything else to cover? We good?
No, we're good, man.
Cool. That was probably 45 minutes on the roster, another 20 to 30 recapping, talking about the group. So
putting together some solid hour, 15-minute podcast.
Yeah. Maybe the next one should be 2 hours. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So that's episode 45, World Cup episode 2. We'll be back sometime in the next couple days, the next one. So stay tuned. Hey,
all right.
By the way, sponsored by Inform Sportswear. You need some soccer grip socks. Link should be in our bio.
Yes, links are in our bio. They'll be sponsoring us all throughout the World Cup. They've recently dropped products like soccer grip socks. So if you guys are into that type of product to help you improve your game, Inform Sportswear got you guys. So you guys can find that all over our Instagram page.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right. Peace.